Hello everybody, we're back with Godzilla Rampage 2011 and oh my god, Godzilla, the king of the monsters, has his own comic book. Made by Marvel Comics nonetheless, one of the most popular comic book making companies ever. And from 1977 to 1979, they made a 24-issue long comic book series featuring the one and only King of the Monsters. Now, what do I think about this comic book series? Well, if you're a Godzilla fan, you should definitely check this comic book series out. Look at the cover. The cover looks like the comic book series is going to have some great artwork. Godzilla looks like Godzilla. He's breathing fire. He's trampling a city. He's fighting the military. And look on the back. On the back, you know that there's going to be more monsters. And these covers don't lie. It's a very well done, very well executed, and overall epic comic book. The only downside I would say to this the only real downside to this comic book is that it's a shame that the slides aren't in color. But to be honest, I don't really know if the original slides of the comic book were in color because maybe they were just black and white to begin with. But then again, both this slide of artwork and this slide of artwork, both of these slides of artwork you see in the comic book, and they're in color here, but inside the comic book, it's all black and white. So I'm going to think that all of these slides were originally in color. So maybe one day we're going to see a version of this comic book series that's in color restored to the modern generation. But for now, you can get all of the issues of this comic book series if you go to Amazon and type in Marvel Essential Comics Godzilla. The first episode puts you in the right mood. You know, Godzilla's back. He's out of a state of his hibernation has come to an end. Yeah, see, look, he's being freed from ice, just like, you know, Dracula or Frankenstein. He's coming back from hibernation, and he's ready to destroy humanity again. Look at that. He destroys a lighthouse, and pretty soon he destroys like an oil installment. Look at that. He just tears the whole thing down. He even this is even cool. He picks up one of the oil lines and he pulls out of the ground and he just smashes it just across the whole place like a whip. And then after that, we're getting introduced to this military. Pretty good. Overall, it's a good military. You know, it's like this weird it's like this weird combination of Judge Dredd meets, I don't know, a Cobra from G.I. Joe. Then we're introduced to our main characters. There's Robert, a little boy, his grandfather, a scientist. There's also Robert's mother. It's been a while since I read this, and to be honest, where there were humans, I didn't pay attention to, I forget who this guy is, for example. He has an eye patch, though, and that's automatically cool. But then there's the leader of this whole group called Dum Dum Dugan. I think of all the human characters, him and Robert are my favorite. Dum Dum Dugan looks like Watson, but he's like this but he's like a cross between I don't know, the guy from Final Wars, you know, that Sergeant Slaughter look-alike from Final Wars, and Captain Price from Call of Duty 4. And then there's Robert. Robert's a lot like Ishiro from Godzilla's Revenge. He's able to speak to Godzilla, and Godzilla actually understands him. Godzilla feels like Robert is his only friend, and he obeys him. So it's like him and Godzilla have some weird spiritual connection. So essentially, after this comic book series, you know, Godzilla comes back. He terrorizes, you know, he terrorizes the oil refinery, and then a boat. And after that, you know, the humans are able to stop him for a while, and, you know, they're just more adventures from there. And if you haven't noticed yet, like most Marvel comic book series, the artwork in this, the artwork is great. I mean, the style of the artwork never loses its touch. It's well detailed, it's cartoony, it overall just puts you in the right mood for Godzilla. And throughout this comic book series, Godzilla's going to travel to places in the United States, such as Seattle, There we go. He goes to Seattle. I think there's also an issue where there's an issue where he goes to Las Vegas. He actually destroys the Hoover Dam and he unleashes all this water on Las Vegas. He also, in here, he goes to some sort of a volcano guarded by these people who are unleashing a weird dragon look-alike. Let's see, where else? He also battles giant moths, so it looks like that Marvel had a good idea of what Godzilla was. They got the rights to Toho, and they do not disrespect Godzilla at all in this comic book. They know what he is, they cut the crap, and they made Godzilla into what he really is, a giant fire-breathing dinosaur. You can tell that Marvel, a comic book studio, knew what Godzilla was 1,000 times better than what TriStar, a movie-making studio, knew about Godzilla. So overall, this comic book series it's well drawn, it's anything but forgettable, trust me. Whether it's good or bad, I'll let you decide. Personally, I think if you're a Godzilla fan, check this out. You have to check this out. It's memorable, and I think it's enough. And I think, although it's 24 issues long, I think there's plenty of issues that you can name your favorite. And also, there's a part where they capture Godzilla. But I think I've listed my favorites over here because sadly there are no page numbers in this essential comic pack. So here are my favorites. I'm going to start with one of my favorite comic book, here it is when the team actually shrinks down Godzilla. That's a good idea, I've always wondered. What if humanity actually shrunk Godzilla and then contained him? Well, in this comic book issue, the humans actually succeed. They shrink Godzilla down to size using some sort of gas/ray, and Godzilla shrinks, and then after that, what else? After Godzilla shrinks down, they're actually able to get him contained. And like, look at that. Dum Dum Dugan is actually grappling Godzilla. And look, he just shrinks further. He just shrinks more, and more, until finally, look at that. He's small enough for Dum Dum Dugan to fit inside his arm. Fit in his hand. And look at this weird thing first. Godzilla's grappling him, and then all of a sudden, he's shrinking, and he's shrinking. So later they contain Godzilla, so they put him in a cage, and then I consider two-parters to be just one issue, because usually the only reason there are two-parters is that the first issue was too long, so they have to continue the story in another issue. So I just think of two-parters as this one big issue. So next, Robert actually releases Godzilla from his imprisonment, and the bad news is that the longer Godzilla goes without being exposed to the shrinking gas, essentially if Godzilla is not exposed to shrinking gas, he's going to keep on growing. Look, drop the cage. So Godzilla's not being exposed to the shrinking gas, and therefore, basically, he's gonna grow back to full size. Look at that. Oops. Is that all you say? Is that all you got to say? Oops. So Robert now feels that he has to go out to New York and see that Godzilla is safe. So Godzilla actually ends up going down into the sewers, and I'm not joking here, he gets into a fight with a rat. So it's basically a Godzilla fight on a smaller scale. This I actually thought was a pretty new idea. You never really see Godzilla anything but this giant behemoth. And then later, Robert finds Godzilla, and he just keeps on growing and growing until... Oh wait, sorry, this is a three-parter. Sorry, this is a three-parter. Huh. So he keeps on growing until eventually he's the size of a... he's the size of a human, and there's this actually cool scene where Robert tries to disguise Godzilla as a normal human using a fedora hat, coat, and sunglasses, because that's just the cliche. Nobody can see through that disguise. So they get into trouble with these two criminals, and he actually fights them off. And then after that, but the best part about this three-parter is that near the end, Godzilla, I'm also serious here, he gets into a fight with the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four corner him in a museum, as you see over there, and they try their best to defeat him, but no, it just keeps on going. And now it's a four-parter, man. So look, he just keeps on growing, he gets into a fight with the Fantastic Four. There's Elastic, the Thing. I'm not familiar with the Fantastic Four. So, yeah, look at that. Not going to spoil the ending to this, but so I'm going to move on to the number 2 favorite. The number 2 favorite is like this weird Godzilla versus Monster Zero, just full out, absolute crazy brawl. Godzilla is transported to another planet where he fights another monster similar to Godzilla versus Monster Zero. I think it picks up when Godzilla defeats this big abominable, this big, like, you know, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman. Yeah, he defeats this big snowman in a previous issue, and then he goes to another planet, and he ends up fighting another monster. But then later, the aliens who want Godzilla to win have an opponent. Another race of aliens wants to go down and conquer Earth, but Godzilla goes down with them. So it's like Godzilla versus Monster Zero. So there are the 3 monsters, and it just gets better from there. Goes back to Earth. And also, Robert controls this robot named Red Rocket, Red Rocket, as you see there. He's like a cross between Jet Jaguar and Kiryu. He has that shiny metal human figure like Jet Jaguar, but he has a gun and a little sword a lot like Kiryu. So Robert is controlling Red Rocket, getting into a lot of trouble, and then he's back to fight like these 3 monsters. Again, this is a 2-parter. Actually, no, I think 3-parter. Look at that. So it's Red Rocket and Godzilla versus 3 other monsters. So it's these bad aliens trying to defeat these other aliens that want Godzilla to win. And also, to make matters worse, all these 3 monsters are later enhanced. They grow bigger and badder, and Red Rocket is eventually defeated. So it's all up to Godzilla. Three-parter, and then it just, look at that. Red Rocket's defeated, and it's just insane. So look, Godzilla's up against those. How's he gonna win? Well, you gotta read the issue to find out. Then, I think the final one is one of my favorites because it ends it well. Godzilla is in New York City and all of the Avengers are trying to take him down. It's great that Marvel got a lot of their superheroes to fight Godzilla. So there's Thor, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four. So Godzilla notices the Empire State Building and he tries to destroy, and he's going there, he wants to destroy it, and the Avengers try to take him down along with the humans, but they just keep on getting set back, and it all leads up to one of the most amazing comic book panels I've ever seen. Look at that. That's amazing. Iron Man. And look at those typical cliche comic book words like Marah, Fush, Baku, Choom, Toom, Boom. So yeah, overall, I think the comic book series began well and ended well. And also, although these are 3 of my favorites, they're not in order. It's not like a top 3. It's just the 3 I enjoy reading the most, but there's other ones, like this one, for example, where there's also, like this one, where Godzilla is in Las Vegas, and he ends up destroying the Hoover Dam, and it washes up all of Las Vegas, and there's this gambler in between there. I think that's another cool idea. But really, every single last issue of this comic book series, it gets down to the point. You know, it's a typical Marvel 1977 comic book with Godzilla. You know, Godzilla is actually Godzilla in this one. It's interesting. Godzilla fights all of these monsters. It's a Godzilla fan's dream to read all of these comic book issues. So if you haven't seen this comic book, check it out. If you can find a version that's in color, that's great. But, you know, just Man, I was amazed that Godzilla actually had a comic book, but here it is, 24 issues long, and it's one of the best comic book series I've ever read. Spectacular spectacular artwork. Godzilla is portrayed great. He fights all of these monsters. It's creative, it's inventive, so go check out Marvel's Godzilla King of the Monsters.